Hello friends, and welcome to Vlogmas Day 8. Welcome to Vlogmas Day 9. Woo! We are indeed a day behind, but after filming a Vlogmas video on Saturday, which was the Vlogmas Q&A, not the Q&A, the Vlogmas vocabulary episode, and it took a really long time, and then after filming a proper podcast episode on Sunday, I was like, not gonna do this again on Monday, so I took Monday off. So today's Tuesday, December 20th. We are doing this on an even day because breaks. We're doing this on an even day, and there are 3 days left to... My lord, I'm throwing everything on the floor. There are 3 days left to Vlogmas. We are quickly approaching the Christmas holiday and quickly approaching the end of my Advent spin. And this has been a real joy. It's been a real joy to like sit down and chat with you every other morning, to share my spinning practice. I don't even want to say to share my spinning knowledge because I'm not sure that's what's happening. But to share my spinning practice with you, it's been a real joy, and I've hoped you enjoyed hanging out with me this whole month. I hope that this brought you a little bit of cozy magic. We still have 2 days left, so we don't have to do this. It is 6:12 on Tuesday, December 20th. We are going to talk about what's in my spinning library. So this episode might be a little bit shorter than the others because I actually don't own very many spinning books. But I know not everyone learns through like YouTube University like I did. So I thought it would be cool to share what I was reading and what helped me learn how to spin yarn. Some of these books are, and I have 1 knitting book for. 1 knitting book? 2 knitting books. I have no idea. Some of these books are newer to my library. Some of these books are books that I have had for the entire time that I've been spinning. And again, we're going to take all these statements with a grain of salt because I've been spinning for all of 2 years. Like literally Christmas this year will make the 2-year anniversary of me owning my first wheel. So we're going to take all of these like from the beginning statements with a grain of salt because I actually haven't been doing this all that long. But, you know, I will show you how my last spin ended up. We are doing the 1 bobbin of our 1, 2, 4 fractal. And by now, if you've watched the spinning vocab episode, you know what I mean when I say that. So here's the bobbin. Focus. There we go. So here's what the bobbin looks like. It's really, this felt very Eastery to me. It's all like pastels, pink. It was pink, purple, yellow, green, pretty much were the colors in it. So we will see what day 9 has to offer. I'm just putting my bobbin back on my wheel, so I'm all set up. We'll see what day 9 has to offer. This has a little fox. It's very cute. So we'll see. Cue the present dance. What are you gonna do when there's no present dances in your life, you guys? What am I gonna do? Someone's gonna have to just give me presents on a regular basis so that there will always be present dances in my life. So I'm gonna start lodging formal requests with the ooh, what is this? Ooh, there's something shiny in here. Okay, something shiny in this, and I'm wondering if this is Seacell? Is it Seacell? Ooh, it's BFL and silk. Ooh, that feels nice. So here's it. I don't know why I always hold it up to you guys so you can see it. This is BFL and silk, and it feels really luxurious. It is also very different than what's on my bobbin right now. If that bobbin was giving me Easter, this is giving me like Little Mermaid, the Lost City of Atlantis vibes. Here it is. So it's like turquoise and pink and blue, definitely giving me some underwater aquatic vibes, and I'm really excited to spin this. I don't think I've ever spun BFL silk from Nest before. I've spun BFL silk multiple times, but like every dyer sources their fiber a little bit differently, and so like one person's version of like a fiber there's no guarantee that like that's like the version of it. So we'll see what this does. This is already starting to split a bit, so we'll see if it holds together enough for me to do the 1. I actually might pre-draft this a little bit. No, I'm not. I'm not going to pre-draft it because I'm worried that it'll fall apart, and I really want to spin this end to end. If I was splitting this would be fine, but like you can see here, it's already starting to like drift apart a little bit, and I want to spin this end to end, so I'm not going to mess with it. We're going to switch gears and we'll start spinning. Today I will definitely not finish this because I don't have much to talk about, but we'll get started. Okay, this is spinning very nicely and I'm very happy with this. We have not, it looks like the silk is drafting okay with the BFL. Sometimes when you get like a comb top that has add-ins, especially if the add-ins are different staple lengths, you might find that you start pulling just the silk, or you pull just the wool fiber or whatever have you. But this is drafting pretty evenly. It is definitely splitting a little bit, so we will see how this goes. But when I say I spin across the top, I mean I just go from left to right across the top instead of going straight down, because if you're spinning from a really thick bit of fiber in your hand and you don't go, you know, from side to side, you run the risk of spinning down your top, and then you end up like literally going down the side of your top. So you just got to be wary of that, and then try to draft from side to side when you're spinning. This silk took the dye a little bit differently than, I wonder how she dyed this, because it seems like, I don't know, this is a really interesting dye job compared to the rest of them. Like, this doesn't feel like it has the same hand painted nature of it, or the silk just took the dye differently, because like in the pink sections of this, the silk is blue, and I would expect the silk to be the same color as the dyed top, but it's not. This section of this yarn is gonna be really pretty. There are a few of these colors where I was like, I wish I had spun them by themselves, but I would not have anything to do with a bunch of mini skeins. Like, that would serve me no purpose, which is why I do the big blended spins, because a bunch of like 12 1-ounce mini skeins aren't going to do me anything. That's why I don't do like mini skein advents, because I mean, I guess you could like weave it all into one project or make like a scrappy shawl or something, but I would rather just have a big spin. Okay, enough about that. We're going to talk about my spinning library. My tension's a bit too high, actually. Ooh, that was not good. Let's get this back on the bobbin. So the most important book in my spinning library is less a book on spinning and more like my textbook for making yarn, and it's the Fleece and Fiber Sourcebook. I highly recommend that book. I feel like if you are interested in becoming a hand spinner and making yarn, it is invaluable. Like, I feel like every hand spinner, I kind of want to say every person who plays with fiber to begin with, but I feel like if you're only working with commercial yarn, maybe it's not as important. But I honestly think every fiber person, any person who plays with fiber, needs a copy of the Fleece and Fiber. Yeah, my tension is too high. Needs a copy of the Fleece and Fiber Sourcebook in their, nope. We are not Goldilocksing today, guys. This is not going well. We're just going to keep tweaking it until we get it. And then once I get that sweet spot, I don't have to do it anymore, but I'm having a really hard time getting the sweet spot, and then my yarn's getting overspun because I can't figure out where my tension is today. So I'm actually just going to break all that extra bit that I just did off because it's overspun. Okay, I figured out the problem. I think I was just too close to my wheel, because I'm happier a little bit further back. With that same tension, just by giving myself a little bit more room, I'm much happier. Okay, what was I saying? Yes, I think every person who, any fiber crafter, should have a copy of the Fleece and Fiber Sourcebook in their library. It is a little bit of a deep dive. It's a little bit of a deep dive. So like, if all you knit with are like indie dyed yarns, and there's nothing wrong with like all you knit with being indie dyed yarns, but if all you knit with are indie dyed yarns, then maybe you don't need a giant textbook. But if you're interested in breed specific yarns, or if you are a spinner, I think everyone needs the Fleece and Fiber Sourcebook in their library. And pretty much what it is the authors, and guys, I'm not going to remember the authors of these books, so I will put them across the screen and I will link them in the description box if you're interested. But the authors go literally breed by breed of almost, I kind of want to say all the sheep in the world, but that would be a generalization because I don't know if they did all the sheep in the world. But they go breed by breed of a lot of sheep. And they, first of all, there's pictures of the sheep. So if you're a sheep person like I am and you want sheep pictures, there's pictures of the sheep. But they also go through the characteristics of the fleece, like what is the staple length, what's the average fleece size, and then they give you recommendations on how to spin it, how to dye it. They give you pictures of the lock structure. It is an invaluable resource, especially if you want to work from raw fleece and you have no idea what you're doing. I refer to my Fleece and Fiber Sourcebook like literally weekly. I don't want to say daily because I don't. That would be an exaggeration. But weekly, I refer to my Fleece and Fiber Sourcebook, and it stays out. Like, it doesn't even go on my bookshelf. It stays out with the rest of my spinning supplies. It's in my spinning cart because I just consider it a spinning supply. I don't even consider it like a spinning book. It is a spinning supply for me. So it stays out in my spinning cart with the rest of my supplies. I pull mine out all the time. It is a great resource. It's really well written. There's pictures of the locks dirty, pictures of the locks clean. It's just a great book. And even if you're not planning on working from raw fleece, but you're spinning from comb top, it is still helpful to know what you have in your hands and to know the characteristics of that particular breed. Does it need high twists? Will it get ropey if it has high twists? How should you ply it? All the sorts of things. It is a great resource. And coming up right next to the Fleece and Fiber Sourcebook is the Field Guide to Fleece, which is written by the same authors. It is just a distilled and condensed version of the Fleece and Fiber Sourcebook, and it doesn't have as many breeds. I think it only has 100 breeds in it. Do you need both? Okay, here's my rationale on whether you need both or not. If you have a Kindle version, no, you don't need both. But if you are like me and you go to fiber shows and you try to buy fleece in person, I like having my Field Guide to Fleece on me. I guess that's why it's called the Field Guide to Fleece, because you take it out in the field. But I like having mine on me if I'm going to be buying a fleece in person, because it helps me look up the breed. Now, you can Google this stuff and you can look at, like, you know, there's a Shetland Breeders Association page and there's a Border Leicester Breeder Association page. But I just trust the information in the Fleece and Fiber Sourcebook. It's in a condensed and easy to like refer manner. And so I have a Field Guide to Fleece that I carry with me to in-person events. You don't need both. The Field Guide to Fleece is a condensed version, but if you are not going to get a Fleece and Fiber Sourcebook and you're looking for a sourcebook, the Field Guide to Fleece is a great one. It has the 100 most common, I think it's the 100 most common or more accessible fleeces that you can find. And while it doesn't have as many pictures and doesn't have as much information, it is still a really good resource. So the Fleece and Fiber to Sourcebook and the Field Guide to Fleece, I think, go hand in hand. The other fleece book I have is the Spinner's Book of Fleece. Again, do you need all 3 fleece books? If you are a sheep person like me, I mean, I feel like that just goes without saying. But in actuality, you don't need all 3. The Spinner's Book of Fleece offers different information and the same information. Like the Spinner's Book of Fleece opens up with a whole, I want to say like 15 to 20 page section on just preparing fleece in a way that the Fleece and Fiber Sourcebook doesn't have that. So it has like some pages on combing, some pages on carding, and all the ways you can prepare fleece for spinning. And I think that's why it's called the Spinner's Book of Fleece. So while it doesn't have, I don't think it has as much of the technical information as the Fleece and Fiber Sourcebook has, it is a good resource for hand spinning. Now, if you're already comfortable working from raw fleece and you were picking one over the other, I would get the Fleece and Fiber Sourcebook. But if you're looking for your like first book and you have no idea how to process, it makes me sad that there aren't as many books on processing raw wool available. Like, I feel like there should be more books on scouring and more books on working from raw wool, but there aren't. And if there are, I just don't know where they are because I've been looking. So if you're new to working with raw fleece, the Spinner's Book of Fleece is a great resource. Again, you don't need all 3. I'm trying to decide what I would recommend. I can't figure out what I would recommend. They all fill different spaces in my library, which is why I have all 3 of them. Actually, I think the Fleece and Fiber Sourcebook is where I would recommend I would recommend that one to everyone. And if you have the budget and the space for a second book, then I would say get the Spinner's Book of Fleece. But also you can like read reviews of them. And I'm pretty sure there's, if you go to like the Kindle store, you can see previews on the insides of the books. And decide what is more your wheelhouse. I have the Spinner's Book of Fleece on a Kindle version. I don't have that. I don't have the hard copy of it because I just did not need another large hardcover book in my library. So I have the Fleece and Fiber Sourcebook on paper. I have the Field Guide to Fleece on paper. And then I have the Spinner's Book of Fleece on Kindle. So those are more of my like fleecy books. As far as spinning books, I love the Spinner's Book of Yarn Designs. It is such a great book for learning new yarns. Like once you've pretty much gotten your default 2-ply and your default 3-ply down, then you're like, well, what more can I do? And I'm not an art yarn spinner, so those are not the yarns I was interested in. But there's like cable yarns and crepe yarns, and like doing like an 8-ply cable is like a wild concept to me. There's like Hauser yarns and like reverse ply yarns, and there's all these other yarn structures that give you different fabrics once you spin them up. And the Spinner's Book of Yarn Designs does a great job of explaining how to make those yarns. Now, of course, this is relying on you having a little bit of spinning knowledge. So I don't know if it's necessarily like the book you're going to learn to spin from, but it is definitely the book you're going to learn to spin new and more interesting yarns from. So I have that one on paper. That one I do have on paper. And I have that one on paper because I like to scribble all over it. Mine has notes in the margin because it's, you know, it's my book, and I 100% believe in marginalia and annotation, and I have lots of thoughts on marginalia and annotation. But mine has, like, I've scribbled all over it. It is a great resource if you've gotten your 2-ply and your 3-ply down and you want to like challenge yourself with new things. Highly recommend the Spinner's Book of Yarn Designs. Okay, as far as color management, because when I first started learning how to spin, I only spun like indie dyed comb top braids, so like color management was important. I really like Yarnitecture, and I think I'll just put like little pictures of all the books in like next to me so you can see the covers, and then again I will link them in the description box. I really like Yarnitecture for learning color management and all the things that go into spinning like an indie braid of comb top, an indie dyed braid of comb top. Yarnitecture is what really helped me like make sense of my fractals. And Yarnitecture also like encourages you to experiment. So it's like, well, what does a 2-ply as it comes look like? What does a 2-ply if you flip 1-ply look like? What does a 2-ply fractal look like? And it has tons of examples of all of knit swatches of these yarn designs, because I think it's like hard to understand what color will do if you don't see it. And honestly, I highly recommend sample, obviously, but like it's also really cool to have someone do it. And her examples are in like primary color, so it's in like a comb top braid that's like red, yellow, blue, green, so easy colors to see what happens in the knit fabric if you spin it a certain way, and easy to see the variations in your knit fabric once you change the way you manage the color of the yarn. So Yarnitecture is a great book for learning color management. I actually took notes on my phone because I won't be able to keep all these straight. And the other book that I learned color management on is the Spinner's Color Toolbox, which is a very similar book. And again, a lot of these things are like repetitive, so you don't need all of them. You can find like, I think in the Kindle app, you can look at like sometimes you can look at the first 2 or 3 pages. Also through Google Pages, you can sometimes look at the first 2 or 3 pages of a book. And I highly recommend, if you can, looking at the book before you buy it, or going to the library and looking at the book before you bring it home and taking a peek at like the author's writing style and the pictures in them, and see if I am getting some really unfortunate curly cues in this. So I'm going to have to turn my attention up some more because I'm getting pigtails in my yarn, which means it is over twisted. So let's see. I'm going to turn my attention up some more. There are a lot of pigtails on my bobbin, which is really unfortunate, because this fiber is really nice, and that means that there are a few places in it. When I say a lot, there's like 5, but that is a lot for me. But there are 5 pigtails on my bobbin, which means there are a few places where this was over twisted and not loading onto the bobbin fast enough. So I just turned my tension up. It does mean that I'm fighting my wheel a little bit more, but I don't know if it's the silk in this or what have you that is making it prone to overspinning. I don't know. But I just turned my tension up, so we'll see if that stops the unfortunate and dreaded pigtails from happening. But yeah, I would highly recommend going to the library and taking a peek at the insides of these books. A lot of these spinning books are available through like the Libby app, and a lot of them I'm sure are available at your local library, because I see people find books at the library all the time. I just don't go. I mean, this sounds silly, but I just don't go to my library. It's not very close to home. And the ones that are available through the Libby app I get, but I also like writing all over my books, and you can't really do that when you borrow them. But I think borrowing them before buying them is a really good route, because like, what if you buy a book and then you don't like the way it's written, or you don't find it helpful? Then you've already spent this money. So if you can borrow a book before you buy them, that might be great. Or if you have like a spinning friend who has it, ask if you can take a peek of it before you invest. And I think the last spinning book on my list is Respect the Spindle. And you're probably like, Tashi, why is this book on your list? You're not a spindle spinner. I really want to learn how to use support spindles. I mean, I joke that it's my nemesis, but I'm also not joking, because it's really frustrating that I can't figure out how to use them. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. And I think it's because I don't have very much spindle practice to begin with. So I've decided to learn how to use a Turkish spindle first. And I'm hoping that by learning... Now, I don't think the... this is too high. I'm really having trouble finding the sweet spot today. I don't know if, like, Turkish spindles and support... Like, because Turkish spindles are suspended spindles, and support spindles are obviously supported spindles. I don't know if there's any real overlap between the two, but I'm wondering if I could master a Turkish spindle, if it would make support spindles, like, click easier in my head. Because I'm used to drafting this way. And when you draft with a spindle, you gotta draft, you gotta spin, you gotta do all these other things, and I don't know how to do that. So I got Respect the Spindle, in the hopes that it will help me learn how to use a Turkish spindle, and hopefully get me on my supported spindle journey. I really like the book. I think if you're just starting to spin, and you're learning to spin with a spindle, it is a really good starting place. The way it explains using a spindle... I mean, I've watched a million YouTube videos. I don't know why it's not clicking for me, but I really do enjoy the book. So I'm hoping that it'll... My Turkish spindle cobs are getting better. It's slow going for me. Probably because I'm used to spinning like this, and I cannot ever remember to like spin the thing, do the butterfly. It feels like support spindles and suspended spindles just have so many steps. You gotta like flick your spindle, spin your yarn, butterfly your yarn, wind your cob, and it's just like, this is too many steps for me, and I'm just used to like treadling. Okay, no more unfortunate pig. No, still unfortunate. You know what? I'm just gonna drop a whirl, because there's still unfortunate pigtails in this, which means it's still getting overspun. So we're just gonna drop a whirl, and then tomorrow I'll have to remember to raise it back up. Okay, that's already bad. I should have just done that from the beginning. I'm halfway through my fiber, and it just occurred to me to just change my spinning ratio. Should have done that from the beginning, because now, no more unfortunate pigtails. Yes, so Respect the Spindle is a great book. And then the only knitting book that I have, and I think it's because I didn't learn to knit through books, the only knitting book that I have is actually a pretty new book, and it's the Laine 52 Weeks of Easy Knits. They did 52 weeks of socks, which I would never buy because sock knitting and I just don't really get along. I'm hoping that knitting 2 at a time socks clicks, but sock knitting and I just don't really get along. And they did 52 weeks of shawls, which again, I'm not going to knit 52 shawls, so I didn't buy. But the 52 weeks of easy knits is amazing. I have so many projects on my list from that book. And it includes like beanies, cowls, sweaters. It's literally a knitter's primer guide. And so you get all these patterns in one book from a myriad of designers, and they're all considered easy. So they're all beginner level, but you learn a lot of cool things like tubular cast-ons, color work. There's increases and decreases. So like if you're just starting out on your knitting adventure and you're like, where can I get a bunch of patterns in one place? The 52 Weeks of Easy Knits by Laine is a great place to start. And also it's 52 patterns. Like that is a wild amount of patterns in one book. So I did get the digital version because I read my patterns in the GoodNotes app with my iPad and an iPad pencil, and then I scribble all over my patterns. Like I check off where I am. Every time I stop knitting, I write down where I left off so I can pick it back up, because you know, you can read your knitting or you could just make notes in your pattern so you know exactly where you are. So I did get the digital version, but it is available in print, and it's available at most local yarn shops. So if you're looking for a print version, support your local yarn shop and see if they have it. And the last 2 books I wanted to mention aren't exactly technical related, but they're just books about fiber that I really enjoyed. So the first book is The Vanishing Fleece by Clara Parkes. I really enjoyed The Vanishing Fleece. Pretty much what's it about is Clara Parkes buys a bale of merino, like super nice Saxon merino wool, and follows it on its adventure to becoming yarn, and talks a lot about like the American wool system and all the people that she's met along the way. It is a great book. It's a really enjoyable read. I highly recommend it. It's good, easy listening. I was listening to it while I was spinning. I did the audiobook. I do most of the time I do audiobooks over like actually sitting down and reading, if I'm reading like a, you know, a novel or a fiction or whatever, just because I'm constantly doing stuff and I like having background noise. So I did it on audio, and it's a beautiful book. I highly recommend it. And the other book on my list that is fiber adjacent but is not necessarily a technical book is Woman's Work. And it's all about like 20,000 years of textiles, and in it the author goes to a bunch of museums and looks at like woven textiles for 20,000 years, from like Viking ship sails to like her own weaving. And it's a really interesting exploration into cloth, like even if you don't weave, because I mean weaving and I are not, like, weaving's not very high on my list of fiber crafts. Even if you don't weave, I think you'll find something interesting to learn about it. I mean, she talks about the yarn structures and all those other things. And it's just cool to, like, hear about these crafts that we do that have been around for literally millennia. I don't know why I didn't just drop my ratio sooner. That would have made much better sense in the beginning when I was getting flustered and frustrated. Yeah, but it's really nice to hear about these crafts that have been around for millennia. Because that's a cool thing to think about, the fact that we spin yarn and people 1,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, whatever, were also finding ways to make fiber into cloth. And I find that fascinating. So those are the two books, and there's a bunch of books that are fiber related that I have in my list that I haven't read yet, so I can't really say much about them. But I've read those two and I really enjoyed them, and I recommend them. So that is pretty much what's in my spinning and knitting library. I don't have very many books because I'm much more of a video learner, which is why most of the books in my library are not like how-to books, but they're more reference books, because that's what I needed in my library, is reference books, since I prefer to learn through watching people do things. But I hope that that gives you some sort of inspiration on where to start, or if you're already like further along in your journey and you're looking for some reference books of your own, maybe that'll help you add them. Or maybe you already have a very dog-eared and well-loved copy of the Fleece and Fiber Sourcebook, and you're like, yes, Tashi, you are exactly right. It is a great textbook to have, and every spinner should have it. I'm constantly telling people to go buy one. You think that like I was doing promo for them, but I'm really not. I just think it's a great book. So that's Vlogmas Day 9. I'm going to... Do I have enough time to finish my spin? I probably don't have enough time to finish my spin before work, but I will finish this baby afterwards, and we have 2 more days left. Oh, I need you guys to do something for me. The last day of Vlogmas, which will come out on Friday, because that's the 23rd. I'm not planning on being... Joshua and I are running away for Christmas Eve, so we're going to do the last day of Vlogmas on the 23rd. I'm still trying to decide if I'm going to do Wednesday, Friday, or if I'm going to do Thursday, Friday, but Friday's my day off, so the last day of Vlogmas is definitely coming out on the 23rd. And it is a Q&A. So if there are any questions you have for me, since a lot of us are like new friends here, I know a bunch of people came over from Instagram, but there are a lot of people who found me through the YouTubes that are new friends here. So if there are any questions you have for me, please leave them in the description. I keep asking you to put things in the description box, and that's not correct. If there are any questions you have for me, please leave them in the comment box below. Thank you. Please leave a comment with any questions you have for me. And on Friday, we'll do a Q&A. I already have a few questions people have asked. It can be fiber related, or it can just be questions about me, if you're interested in who I am. Saying things like that just seems wild to me. But it could be questions just for me. It could be questions about fiber. It could be questions about my fiber journey. I'm happy to talk about wool for another half hour. So yeah, leave questions in a comment if you have any for me, and I will see you for day... Hold on, was today day 10 the entire time and I was saying day 9? think today's day 10. So today was day 10, and I've said day 8 and day 9 multiple times. Today was day 10, so I will see you for day 11 very soon. Oh my lord, this is wrapping up so quickly. I'll see you for day 11. Have the most magical December. Have a magical day, and I'll see you very soon. Bye for now.